You're listening to the House of Chapters podcast. Okay, so welcome, Kate, and thank you for sitting down with me virtually today for this episode 2 of the House of Chapters podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, and it's great to be here.
We had some trouble figuring out time difference. Where are you right now?
Yeah, so I'm in Japan, and it's 9 o'clock at night. So, yeah, we finally figured it out, which is great.
So 8 hours difference. So thank you so much for using your free time in the evening. Also as a mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kids are asleep.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just start with the first question. Okay, so
Okay.
in this podcast, I'm gonna interview different Substackers. Do you like that name, or should I? Or authors on
Yeah.
Substack?
Substack is great. Yeah.
And yeah, so I found your profile a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, wow, I'm just gonna try writing a DM and see if Kate would be interested in talking to me or doing any kind of collab. And it was really great because you answered, and that's already something that makes Substack a different place than other platforms. So
Nice.
what was your experience here on Substack? How did you get started here, or did you start on another platform before Substack? Tell us a bit about your experiences.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I also really like the whole community aspect of Substack and kind of getting to know other writers in different ways. And I've met with some people even in person who I've met on Substack, so that's been really nice. And I remember seeing your project pop up because someone whose work I read and I really like had posted something about you sharing serialized work, and I was like, oh, it's so nice to see people sort of supporting each other and curating work. So I love that kind of small feel. I know Substack keeps getting bigger and bigger, and people like to complain about it, and I get why, because it can feel overwhelming, or it can feel like maybe the energy and attention is going to celebrities or big names, and I get that, but I think that it still has that small feel for me, which is nice, with the potential to grow because of the way that Substack is growing. So I yeah, in terms of writing online, I had sort of like dabbled with a few other blogs in the past, but it was nothing really serious. And I had done writing in other forms. And then I was looking for something to take my work forward a little more seriously. I found myself with a little more time. I was only working part-time a few years ago. And I thought, okay, what can I do to really focus in and build an audience and also get to know some other writers? Maybe at this time notes didn't exist, but you could still connect with other writers. And my brother, who's a journalist in the US, told me, oh, he's like, all the really serious writers are going to Substack. And I was like, what is that? So I started to research it, and I just really loved what it had to offer. So that was, I guess, about three and a half years ago or so.
Wow.
Yeah. And things have evolved. I always knew I wanted to bring my fiction there in some form, but I started writing more about arts and literature and cultural studies, which is like my academic background. And then it's grown into more of a place to share my fiction and I guess ideas related to fiction.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, you mentioned other platforms. What did you try out before Substack?
Sure. I can't even remember, because I think, what, the platforms didn't even make that much of a difference to me. I did
Was it Medium?
I did so I did Medium for a bit. I actually did, so I had done like some stuff on Blogger, on Tumblr before, just kind of playing around. And then sort of as a preamble to Substack, I was more purposefully playing around on Medium, just kind of seeing what kind of articles people were interested in. And I also published on some of their bigger publications, just to start to play around with building an audience, what kind of works and what doesn't. And Medium was good for that. It can feel a little overwhelming there, I think. and noisy, but it's good for some things. So yeah.
Do you feel like Substack is getting noisier compared to the beginning?
I mean, I think it is, but like I say, I think it's partly how you use it and how you curate your feed. I was just visiting a friend in Hong Kong who he's a journalist and he's using Substack in a completely different way than I am. He's got a new business and he writes also about AI. And so he has a really different sort of community on Substack, even though we're friends in real life. And he was talking about this and he said, oh, it's hard to connect with people. I don't like what I see in my feed. It's all, and I said, well, like, I think it depends also, who you're subscribing to and following and who you're interested in and who you interact with. So I think it can kind of be what you want it to be, but it does take a little bit of intention to make it that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And the mythical creature called algorithm is
Yes.
it's also a bit difficult to understand that because my feed has changed a lot in the last 2 weeks, obviously, following people writing serialized fiction or interested in reading it. So I follow lots and lots of people, but still sometimes the feed, depending on the time of the day, it's just here's my sub count or just unrelated pictures, which is fine too, but it's just interesting to see because it has its own mind kind of thing. I read a post by the Substack team about the change from one kind of algorithm to this new one, so a change that you have witnessed. I've only known Substack for 2 months now, so I just know this current version. And people were not happy in the comments, but people rarely are with change, and I get that. Yeah, if it gets bigger and at some point money and ads are probably gonna come in, so let's enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, maybe. I know. I think that's the thing I keep coming back to is, we still don't have ads on Substack. You can still do what you want in your platform, and ultimately, like, I think people spend a lot of writers spend a lot of time on, notes connecting with people, which can be, good and bad, as you've just said. But at the same time, it's, it's an email newsletter platform. And when I look at my stats, I'm like, oh, wow, almost like 95% of the reading is coming from email. And I often forget that because it's more invisible,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's really interesting. Also with the notes, you mentioned that subscribers come from notes, at least in the stats or in the dashboard functions, because you think, okay, I wrote a really good post or I'm really happy with it, and it shows 0 subs, but then you write a note, maybe play a bit the game, adapt a note you've seen, adapt it to yourself, and then you just suddenly get 20, 30 likes, and it's pushed somehow, and you get subs from that. So it's a bit.
Have you had a lot of because you're relatively new? Have you had a lot of subscribers from notes directly? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, at least
That's great.
That's what it shows. Now through the House of Chapters, I've had subs through the House of Chapters posts, which makes sense because I'm like, subscribe, send me your first chapter. And so obviously you're gonna click the button if that makes sense, but other than that it's difficult actually to track where everyone is coming from. But let's get back to your writing. You mentioned a bit the academic background, right, to your writing passion. What else can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I've long been a reader and writer, and I never did anything like serious with fiction, or when I say serious, I mean like finishing a novel, or even really finishing a short story, bringing something to fruition, until I was in the middle of my PhD. So I studied comparative literature in Hong Kong, and I just kind of needed a break from the research, but I had these ideas in my head, and I kind of wanted to get them out in a different way. And so I took a few months just away from the academic work and just started writing this novel I had in my head. and
Wow.
I just loved it. I just felt so free, and I think I had like all this kind of writing energy behind me from the research I was doing. So it was really interesting to channel it into a different form. So it's
Yeah.
still a lot of the ideas I was grappling with, like more philosophically, I guess, or thinking about culture, thinking about the impact on people and everyday life. And then, yeah, that's where my first novel came from
What's the
about
title of that?
12 years ago. The White Knight,
Okay.
which is a play on Nuit Blanche, which is a French term for like when you stay up all night. So it's sort of a metaphor of what was going on in that story. Yeah.
Is that one of the
No, no.
self-published books or novels?
Yes.
Ah,
Yes.
we'll get
So I
back to
self-published that
Yeah.
before I was writing online. I self-published that
Oh,
and
wow.
just kind of did that through word of mouth and didn't I have a habit of, and maybe, I mean, I could come back to this, but with self-publication, it takes a lot of energy to market and promote your work. Even, I would say, even when you're not self-publishing, because I've published books for teachers with Hatchet, and even then you have to do a lot of it yourself.
Yeah.
And I tend to time it really poorly. So like this time I was in the last part of my PhD and I decided that was the right time to publish this book. So, I didn't actually do that much with it, but I still am really happy that I published it when I did because it just felt right. So
Well, that's awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
not everything needs to be like marketing and promotion
yeah,
and perfect recipe. Because what if you do everything right and then it still doesn't work out? So
exactly. And it's there, so you can always go back to it, and who knows what will happen.
so okay. So you told us about your writing passion. I love that, by the way. What you said that to keep your mind off or to change a bit what you're doing with the academic side, and instead of saying, I don't want to write anything anymore, I don't want to read anything, to focus your energy in another place. It's awesome. So what are you working on right now, project-wise?
Sure. Well, I mean, we moved to Japan in August, so I think my mind has just felt a bit busy. So I am working on a few projects, but not in the kind of consistent way I would like. So I'm working on this triptych of novellas, and they're kind of, each of the three of them are in very different stages. So one is very much just in note form. Another one I drafted really quickly a couple of years ago, and it's very rough. I need to go back to it kind of with fresh eyes and come back to it in that way. Originally, it was going to be a novel, and then I felt it would be better as a tighter story. And then this other one, The Man from Brooklyn, that takes place in Maine, which is where I went to university, and it kind of draws on that time as well as Thoreau's writing in Maine. I started serializing this summer. I had like a finished draft, and I was going to go back and re-edit after I got feedback on it. But then after a few chapters, I was getting some really good feedback, but this feedback sort of pushed me to go or it made me consider going in a direction that was more like a surreal thriller. And originally it was going to be more, much more, let's say the pacing much more relaxed and more of a nature story. So now I'm going back to that. So it's going to take me a lot more work, but yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle of this project.
Okay, always something going on. It's also good to take a break, right?
Yeah, that too. Definitely.
You cannot. I mean, I have not been writing like this for long. I've always written journals and or songs, poems, kind of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, to take a break and not be like, I gotta write. Currently with the House of Chapter stuff, I'm publishing on Tuesdays, and I'm pretty disciplined, as in, I hope that continues like that, to just say, okay, it's Tuesday, I'm off in the morning, nobody's home, drink some coffee, don't check the notifications, don't check anything, and just sit down, look at my outline, and then write the next chapter. And so
That's kind of amazing that you're doing it that way, I think, because you're writing it that day and you're publishing it basically right after.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm the way I write. I read each sentence a couple of times actually as I'm writing it. So then at the end, when I reread everything, it's actually just reading it once. Not re-editing the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
It's. I mean, I don't know how I'll do it later on. If when I'm done, I might look at everything again, edit line by line, or maybe not. But if I self-publish it as a short novella kind of thing, I will obviously read everything and make sure it makes sense. But I don't want to lose this raw creativeness. But yeah, so
it sounds like a really nice routine as well. This is what you do once a week. You sit down and you work on this, and like you say, you have an outline, so you have something to follow a little bit, but kind of don't know where it will take you. I like that. I guess it's since it's the first project like that. I don't know if I'll always be able to do it like that. And your perspective changes once you see, oh, actually 80 people read it. Oh, 10 people liked it. So maybe 15, 20 chapters ago, I was like, oh, so do I want to write this? Because people are going to read it. And at first I was publishing just for myself, my wife, and my mom, So there was no pressure there. I was like, just writing. But yeah, then just got to write what you want to write and how you want to write it, I guess, without thinking, will this be a bestseller? But yeah, and I think also the process, like you say, it's an experiment, right? Because I like to experiment with different forms of process, and then you start to learn like what works for you, but then also maybe a different kind of book or a different, I don't know, or something is changing in your life and you have to try something new. And it's great to hear about other people's processes too.
I find it really interesting that you say that you write different stories at the same time, in a sense. So if you're like, I feel like continuing this one. I think I could not do that. I have some ideas for the next story, and I just got to drop them in another mind map kind of thing, other outline, and just leave them there and not start, because I'm afraid I would not finish the first story then.
Right. Yeah. No, I understand that. That's probably good advice. But I think, for me, it's like I wouldn't write several stories. It's not that I'm really writing them simultaneously, because they're in different stages. I can kind of, if I have an idea that maybe I can add to the one that's just in note form, I can add some notes there. But if I'm really working on prose or I'm into the editing process, I would really be focused on one, if that makes sense. I don't know. I guess I've always kind of worked that way. I guess I have a few things going so I can see where my mood and my energy takes me.
Oh, it's great. It's been working, right?
Yeah. It's different.
Kate will be back in episode 3 and talk about her experiences self-publishing. Tune in. Until then, take care.